sharing with you in this video how to learn faster and create more as a result. And so the first thing that I want to share with you in this video in terms of how to actually do this is to understand that lessons are learned faster with self-awareness. If you want to be able to learn your lessons faster, learn things quicker in your life, learn from the mistakes just a little bit quicker than everybody else, the first thing that you need to do is understand that being present to the moment with what's happening in your life and having not just present moment awareness, but self-awareness is going to be of the utmost importance. And so when I talk about the self, what I'm talking about is not to have identification and attachment to thought, to emotion, to the emotional reactions, especially to when things get a little bit more turbulent, so to speak, in your life. That's exactly when you're going to want to have the most self-awareness, because that's where we tend to repeat the same mistakes over and over and over, especially where you feel like you want to take the least accountability in your life, where you want to point fingers to the outside world, to people, to maybe your life circumstance and your life situation. As much as we want to do that, in those moments we're going to want to do that counterintuitive thing where that's exactly when we're going to want to turn our awareness inward and start to see that that's when we're going to start to see the situation as a lesson. Because oftentimes choosing to see it as a lesson needs to be, we have to sort of remind ourselves that it is in fact a choice to do so. Because if you want to look at the situation and see that there's no good in the situation, it can't benefit you in any way, you might be thinking to yourself like, why is this happening to me? And or maybe better yet, like, this shouldn't be happening to me. All these types of thoughts, when you start to see that they're not helping the situation and only making things worse, that's when we can start to take real accountability and see that maybe there's a different way to approach the situation that's going to help you to get a better result, and again, create more as a result of it. I think that the biggest reason why people can't get to the level of what they want to create in their life, that they want to be at, is simply because they're just doing the same things over and over that they know are not working, but yet for some reason they continue to do them anyway. And again, oftentimes it's not because they're not committed enough, it's just that they're putting their attention sort of in the wrong place. They have all these things that they believe are important that are getting them, that they think are getting them the result, getting them closer. But then it's like, if you look at the actual actions that they're taking, they're not getting more aligned with the result that they want, yet they feel like they are. And we have to see that difference between which actions are you actually, do you actually have to take to help you get the result that you want, and where in your life maybe you feel like you're doing a lot, but then yet you're not. And oftentimes that comes as a result of lack of self-awareness, a big, strong attachment to some identity, our ego, and looking at life in a certain way where we feel like lots of pride about something, but then the actual results that we're getting are not proportional to that feeling. And then so that's where more accountability has to happen. And then so the second thing that I want to share with you in this video that's going to help you to learn faster and create more as a result is to understand that what I think we have to start to do is to stop thinking problems are happening to you, like where we personalize the problems in our life, where it's like something is happening. Of course, like maybe it's a really bad life situation, I get it, life can bring challenges, life can bring problems, but it's like that's again where you really want to personalize it, because it's like, no, it's like, I get what you might be saying to me, like, I get what you're saying, but this life situation is really, really negative, so like I have to make it about me in this situation. Try your best not to do that. I've seen in my life personally that the more that I make it about myself, me, and then it's less about thinking about how can you provide value to others. If it's just about you and what you want, then oftentimes it's not going to help you to get to the point in your life where you're even going to be able to think of a solution at all, because you're so caught up in me. Like, this is all the things that are happening in your life that you don't prefer, but then there's no solution oriented mindset, simply because there's too much focus on personalizing the situation, making it about you when it's not about you. Oftentimes not everything is about you. Good insight that will help a lot of people, I think, to create more, which really helped me to create more, is to realize that the world doesn't necessarily revolve around you. And so it's not to say that you're not the main character of your own movie and all these type of things that you might hear a lot of people say on YouTube. But the truth is that, of course, you're your own character, of your own movie. But nonetheless, we also have to realize that, not everything is just going to go on your terms exactly how you think it in your mind. And it might be slightly different, it might be a little bit different. But in the end, you're still going to get what you want. Just maybe the path to getting there might be a little bit different than you thought. Something will have to be a little bit different, because some things you got to remember, you can't even imagine. Some things it can be at such a high level of intelligence that it can just happen in the present moment, and you couldn't even imagine it. You couldn't even think about it, but yet there it is happening, and it's in front of you. So that's something to consider as well. And so that I've noticed in my experience. And so the final thing that I want to share with you in this video is also to understand that if you want to learn faster and create more as a result of it, more things in your life, what I really believe is that we have to stop perfectionism. Perfectionism has to stop. So what does that mean? It means that you're waiting for the perfect moment to start taking action. You think that everything has to be perfect and perfectly in line, and only then can you take action. Or here's a good one. You're waiting to feel ready to take action. None of these things matter when it comes to taking action. What you really need is willingness. You might not feel like doing the things that you want to do oftentimes in your day. You might not really want to do it oftentimes. You might not feel like you're knowledgeable enough, and you might feel like you don't have the skill set. Maybe you feel like you're not confident enough. Maybe you feel like there's many blockages and a lot of objections that you might have in terms of why you can't create what you want. And I can just keep going. But at the end of the day, though, we have to make a decision to say that perfectionism is not going to help you to actually learn, because oftentimes the best way to learn is through consistent action. And if you're waiting for perfectionism, if you're stuck in a state of perfectionism and you're waiting for the perfect moment, then oftentimes that can block learning, because a lot of learning happens through application of ideas, not just ideas, but actual action taking. And actual action taking, I want you to notice that actually being in a flow of action doesn't require any more ideas. It doesn't require any more thought. It just requires doing. And oftentimes, what I think we can forget is that to actually do doesn't require any thinking at all. Because if you are being while you're doing, then the doing becomes a part of who you are. It becomes a part of your natural identity, where now your doing becomes just your basic identity that you choose for yourself on a moment-to-moment basis. And so I believe that when we can stop trying to wait for the perfect moment and then just become a consistent action taker and just kind of make that naturally who you are, you end up learning a lot faster compared to the person that's sort of waiting for the perfect moment to take action. But what they need is not more readiness, but they need more willingness. Readiness is not really a thing to really value, in my personal opinion, when it comes to creating what you want. It's more about, are you willing? And if you're not willing, then a good question to ask yourself would be why? Why are you not willing? Because at the end of the day, this is where we need to start to feel more empowered, to remember that we can choose the trajectory of our life. If you continue to be the same person that you are and look at the results that you've been getting, then oftentimes it's important to remember, I believe, that if we look at those actions, if we know we're going to be the same person and then we're not happy with that, something has to change in terms of the way that we're doing things. And that only happens when we stop being perfect and just start taking action consistently, and then learn through the process of action itself.